Few harvests can match the stark beauty and rich color of cranberries in the American Northeast. The state of Wisconsin may have perfected the mass production of this annual crop, but you can trace the berry's roots and history back to the bogs of Massachusetts. Stretching across 14,000 acres of annually flooded fields, Massachusetts farmers are second in the nation in cranberry production, and the red fruit accounts for nearly 1/5 of the state's entire farm production revenue. Some growers harvest the original cranberry vines planted by their ancestors more than a century ago, as the annual crop doesn't call for replanting in the region's sandy topsoil.
We're managing our properties 365 days a year. I haven't seen any corn plants that are approaching 80 years old, and here my cranberry plants are still being very productive after 80 years. And I'd like to see some of the plants that are around that will be doing some of this. So ours requires a fair amount of finesse and a good touch and working in concert with Mother Nature to be able to have a productive cranberry farm.
Fourth-generation cranberry grower Gary Gerritsen has toiled in his family's cranberry operation since the 1970s. As fall approaches, the massive acreages are flooded one by one. Field workers operating beating machines run multiple passes through each bog, literally shaking the cranberries off the vines and into the rising water. A team of hired hands corral the red fruit into concentrated circles, starkly visible from hundreds of feet above. Powerful pumps suck up the floating fruit. Pressured water strips away much of the remaining leaves and chaff, and the berries are dumped into nearby containers. Truckload after truckload of Gerritsen's crop will eventually arrive here, at one of Ocean Spray's massive collection facilities, which run non-stop from late September into November. The imagery of a bountiful harvest evokes a sense of prosperity for the cranberry industry, but a decade-long economic roller coaster has buffeted the pocketbooks of growers, and for many farmers, their parent cooperative, Ocean Spray.
Almost 10 years ago, exactly at this point, the industry was going through an oversupply. The price of cranberries in the industry, including Ocean Sprays, had crashed to about $12 per barrel. We literally announced that price the week I joined the company. There is no average farm of cranberries, but if there was, the average cost of growing cranberries back then was probably around $18 a barrel. So at $12 a barrel, everybody was losing money. So they were interesting times.
CEO Randy Papadelis came to Ocean Spray in 2003 amidst a swarm of grower resentment towards dwindling profits and a company teetering on the edge of a potentially aggressive takeover.
Half the growers in the co-op who believed that they could rebuild what they once had in terms of a strong, profitable business. And you had about the other half who felt that it had been a good run, but they had built up significant equity in this brand called Ocean Spray and felt that if they sold that brand to a large strategic buyer like a Pepsi, a Coke, or a Nestle, that they could realize more value that way.
Ultimately, growers narrowly chose to spurn the Pepsi bottling takeover and embrace a new long-term marketing strategy for the world's largest producer of cranberries. A host of increased marketing efforts launched for the popular dried cranberry snacks, craisins, cranberry energy drinks, and a fresh variety of blended offerings that have bolstered the bottom line. But unlike other food and beverage companies, Ocean Spray's shareholders are its 750 farms.
We, in a sense, try to maximize the cost of our largest raw materials. So I have a lot of colleagues in the consumer packaged goods world and when I try to explain to them that my job is to actually maximize the cost of my largest raw material purchase, which are cranberries and grapefruit, that's a little different for them.
As businesses across the country cope with the fallout from the Great Recession, the cranberry industry is now faced with its latest wave of oversupply, and according to Papadelis, a nearly all-time low commodity price for cranberries.
Because of the investments that we've put in and the strength of our business, we're actually in a 180 degrees opposite place in regards to the Ocean Spray brand. The Ocean Spray growers will receive the highest return in the history of the cooperative on the crop that we're harvesting right now. whereas the independent growers may in fact see the lowest return that they've ever seen. So it's created quite a dichotomy within our industry.
That gap between those inside and outside the cooperative has created tension throughout the industry.
When a cooperative controls 65 to 70% of A, the tonnage, and B, the market, then they do have a lot of control and decide a lot of things.
John Dekas, whose family first dabbled with cranberry production in the 1930s, now represents his namesake company. The collection of more than 150 growers and 500 acres of bogs have long carved a niche into the ocean spray-dominated industry. Dekas contends the latest glut of berries is due to poor planning and further amplified by juice blending practices.
The price went up. A lot of the major companies, and I'm not going to name them here now, but it isn't hard to figure it out, started putting less and less cranberry in their products. Problem with that is, you know, if there was a shortage and you need to do that, that's one thing. But there's no shortage now. There's an oversupply. Berries are very, very cheap. The growers are getting hammered as a result. And instead of passing that cut, that cost saving onto the consumer, they're putting it in their pockets.
Ocean Spray's Papadellus contends the blend of cranberry concentrate and other juices isn't linked to supply, but instead driven by consumers.
There's some who believe the industry is better off by putting more cranberries in the bottle. Well, everything we do is based on consumer research and consumer insights. And our goal is not necessarily to put the most amount of cranberry in the bottle, but it's to sell the most amount of bottles.
Like their heavyweight competitor, Dekas has aggressively marketed their sweetened dried cranberries, known in the industry as SDCs. The mid-sized operation also is bullish on its latest venture. The Dekas fruitaceuticals are pumped full of previously leftover antioxidant-rich cranberry material.
If we've learned anything in this industry over the years, you can't stand still, because once you develop a particular product like sweet dried that's successful, and growers start making money, they start building more and more bogs. They're very aggressive and they're very good at what they do. An ordinary response to that is, well, you got to grow your way out of it. Well, you grow your way out of it by generating new products and opening new markets.
Expanding markets is at least one thing the overall industry may agree on. Ocean Spray has sought a consumer foothold in countries ranging from Western Europe to East Asia. The efforts could bolster demand for the largely North American fruit. But regardless of the outcome, cooperative members like Gary Gerritsen contend Ocean Spray is more than an end user of commodities.
It's not just a contract. We have a relationship with our marketing co-op, and that's different from just a contractual obligation to take my fruit and go away and give me the highest price. I feel it completes us as a farm, and I can concentrate on my farming and not on my marketing.
Cranberry production in 2011 is shaping up to be the second largest on record. USDA claims 7.5 million 100-pound barrels will be collected. That's up 10% from a year ago, leaving marketers like Dekas and Ocean Spray to find a home for all those berries. For Market to Market, I'm Andrew Bott.